Hey everyone, I'm Kyle Racky, and I'm here joined today by Jason Swenk. Jason Swenk is, I'd say, probably the master when it comes to selling and scaling your agency. He's done it, and we are going to talk to him about how to go from a 2 or 5 or 10 person agency to 100 and beyond. Thank you for joining us today, Jason.
Hey man, thanks for having me, Kyle.
Great. I was going to do this video, this was just going to be one of our standard videos we do. And then I thought, you know what? I've never actually scaled an agency. So what am I going to do coming on here talking about how to scale your agency? So I wanted to get like the best guy I know in the business to talk about that. That's what you did, right?
Yeah. Well, sorry the best person wasn't available. You had to choose me, right?
No, you're the best, man. Well, talk about your agency for a minute, because this was about maybe 10 years ago, but you guys scaled to the 100+ person mark. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. It was only 5 years ago, but time flies by. But I started an agency in 1999 when Al Gore invented the internet, and and we struggled for a number of different years. We were around the 5-person mark. And then when I started getting real serious and setting up the right systems, that's when we were able to, reach over, see it really kind of grow past the 100 mark and, be a multi-million-dollar agency, which was really cool.
Well, okay, so let's touch on that. You were struggling for a few years to kind of break through those barriers, which I know a lot of agency owners are. And then you said you started setting up systems, and that was kind of your key to scaling. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, there's really kind of 8 systems that you really kind of need in order to really kind of scale that I discovered. And some of these systems I discovered after I was out, right? Because you're in this agency world and it's just, you got the blinders on. Yeah. And really the first system is really clarity of where do you want to go? All right. So now you're starting to form some kind of clarity going, hey, I'd like to make it over the 100-person mark, right? Or some of you may be struggling so bad you're going, dude, I can't even manage 5 people, let alone 100, right? And you'll be like, I don't want to get there. Well, I'll tell you, it actually gets easier the more people that you have, if you have the right things in place, the right leadership team, the right org chart, the right systems. But the first thing is really, once you figure out where you want to go, what you want to do, who you want to go after, and that's very, very important, getting specific rather than saying, hey, I want to be a full-service agency, and we all know you're full of crap. Because you can't be a full-service agency. There's too many darn things out there.
We do ads, and we do brochures, and we'll do your video. We'll paint your chicken coop if you need that. We'll do it all. That's what people think.
And I can make fun of you because we used to do that. Now, we could kind of get away with it because there was only like 3 things that digital agencies did. But then as we started going on, we had to really specialize. A lot of people go, well, how do you win business outside of local? Well, you have to specialize. Yeah. And if you don't take anything away, well, this is probably one of the most important things. If you don't drill down farther enough in order to figure out what their problems are and what they want and really, do that so you can focus on them versus yourself, you're going to miss out and you're going to be struggling for a number of different years and relying on referrals. Yeah. And we all know referrals are not scalable.
So a lot of people are proud of the fact that their business is generated solely on referrals. People will say that. They're like, oh, we don't do any marketing. We don't do any sales. We just, people call us because we're so good. What's wrong with that?
Well, the problem is you're going to keep getting that same level of client or below. Right? Because everybody coming to them going, oh man, I love your website. Who did it? Oh, cool. And that person's trying to get to that level. Right? And so you're going to constantly go, well, man, I can't raise my prices. People are already kind of complaining about them as it is. And if you can't raise your prices, you can't get the right people. And if you can't get the right people, you're going to be doing everything. And it's a constant cycle, right? And if you constantly say, well, I'm too busy or we don't have enough time, you're not charging enough. And you're not charging enough because your business is based on referrals and you need to do things different, which actually leads to kind of the second system, right? And it's all around positioning. And look, I remember doing this, and I think this will relate to all of you guys listening or watching this video. We would go, we want to be a bit bigger agency, so let's model these bigger agencies. And we go look at their websites, right? And their websites are shit. Yeah. They're horrible. Like, hey, Huge does an amazing job. They're an amazing agency, but their website blows.
I actually just did a website teardown of agency websites a few weeks back, and the worst one by far was this. In Halifax, a large agency, they just got merged with another big agency and they relaunched their website. It had a fucking flash splash intro in 2017. It had a big loud noise that assaults you as soon as you open it. It's like, how did these guys get this big?
Yeah, well, the thing is I know a lot of those guys, they don't rely on their website to generate leads, right? They already have the huge relationships, the name, the brand. So us little guys, we look at the big guys and go, oh, they have a big H on their website, their homepage. Like their whole homepage is a big H. And they go, well, ours starts with an I, so let's put a big I on there, and do stupid stuff. Right. Now, I'm not talking about just that. It's their positioning on themselves. They talk about their awards. All the attention is based on them. And if you think of we're storytellers. We need to tell the right story. And if you start positioning yourself as the star in the story, then that makes them the trusted sidekick or the damsel in distress. And no one wants to be like Robin in the Batman story, right? Mm. What you need to do is you need to position yourself as Alfred, that trusted advisor, right, in order to guide them. So you don't just say, hey, we are a full service agency that works with anybody that has money, right? Versus saying, hey, do you want more donors, volunteers, in order to spread your message? Well, we can help you with this website because we totally focus on nonprofit websites. Yeah. See what I'm doing about that positioning? I'm automatically saying, what do we offer? How does this help? And who is this for? And positioning them as the trusted advisor. I mean, even if you look at my about page at jasonswank.com, I don't even talk about myself until the very bottom. It's totally focused on the person coming to the site. Yeah. And so positioning is a really big thing. That's how you can get all of that business outside of your local market.
And that's what I think agencies maybe in particular, are always tempted to do, is talk too much about themselves. I think maybe that's just human nature, and they don't realize that once you start talking about the client and their pain and really understanding it, the world changes, right?
Big time. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, just think about how could you change your whole website to a question mark? Because when you're asked a question, someone's going to automatically, all the attention goes on them.
Yeah. There's one thing that I almost want to belabor the point, because I don't think we've flogged this horse enough, is why should you want to be big, right? So let me kind of phrase this and position this question. When you're a small agency, and I've been there before, I've been in a struggling, small web design agency that mostly referred on referrals and local business, didn't have a specialty. And I was almost proud, or at least I convinced myself that I was proud of being small. Oh, we're not like those big agencies. We're really small. That makes us nimble, and that means... But what I soon realized, or what I realized over the span of years, 5 years running it, was that it wasn't that I wanted to be small. It's I didn't know how to be big, and I didn't realize that for an agency to actually be super profitable, you need people to scale. So for people listening that are in small agencies that are maybe resisting the urge to scale because they're afraid of hiring that many people and having that amount of people on a payroll, what would you say to them?
Well, you're at a crossroads, right? So if you think of kind of the life cycle of a business, when you start out, it's in the fun stage. And I think this is built on the predictable success model. I can't remember what it was. But when you first start out, it's fun. And then you start getting more and more clients. And you're like, man, this is cool. Let's kind of scale this up a little bit. And as you get more and more clients, you need to bring on more people. And when you bring on more people, things get complex. And you enter what they call kind of the whitewater stage, right? And everybody goes through this. And you have to make a decision. You either make a decision of figuring out, how do I get through the whitewater and get to the predictable success where the business does not rely totally on me, or you can go back and fire everybody and go back to a particular business where it relies on yourself, right? Where it's totally on you. Yeah. And either way is perfectly fine. But if you want to scale, which that's why you're listening to this, you need to create the right systems in order to push through. And when you do this, literally toward the later years at our agency, I was at the racetrack racing cars a majority of the time. And like I literally had like 5 roles and 5 roles only. One of them was set the vision and direction of the agency and communicate it to the team often, right? Because if you don't do this and you don't have that clarity, if you don't communicate where you want to go, your employees are going to make decisions what's best for themselves versus what's best for the agency, right? So that's kind of job number 1. Job number 2 would be kind of to be the front person of the agency. So if you're in the agency space, Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Perfect example. Be the front face for the agency, and then just everything comes around from that. The third thing is know the financials. Don't you don't have to be an accountant. I'm an idiot when it comes to the numbers. And I used to laugh when my teacher, and Kyle, you're about my age too, I think, or maybe I'm a little older. But you remember when the teacher said, you need to figure this out because you're not going to be walking around with a calculator in your pocket all the time. Well, booyah, I win. We got our iPhones, so I don't have to be good at math.
Yeah.
So we hired people.
And the person you hire can be your walking calculator, right?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So have someone and understand the financials. Then the other thing would be is the coach and mentor your leadership team, just one level deep, and then have everybody else do the same as well. Right. Right. And then, lastly, it's just, you got to just have fun, in the agency. And when you do this, you don't have to constantly be working on client projects, right? You can assist in the key relationships. You can assist in sales, but you're not doing all of it.
Yeah.
And those are really kind of the roles that I played. And that's why you want to hire more people. So you can concentrate on the stuff that you love. I mean, I got to a point where I wanted to quit the agency several times because it was totally reliant on me. I was doing things I didn't enjoy or love anymore. And the only way we got through it was set up the right systems, set up the right people in those places with the systems, and then I could do everything I wanted to do.
And I think a lot of people they have got this, they're almost multiple personalities because part of them wants that, but then part of them is like, ooh, I don't want to give up control. Oh, this is a key client. I better manage everything. I better do the work because I'm the best one at it. And people have this like control issue that they just can't hire somebody and stay the fuck out of their way and let them do it.
Yeah, the biggest thing is you got to let them fail. You got to give them creativity and enough control where they can start learning and making decisions on their own. I mean, yes, they are going to mess up, but as long as you create a mechanism and a place where they can constantly learn. I mean, look at all the times that you messed up, right? Just provide them the resources and tools in order to guide them. But a lot of times we would see the train wreck coming and we'd let it happen.
That's hard to
do. And it's very, very hard to do. But we're planning for the future, not just that week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And as long as you know how to react to it and then they get better, then it's not going to happen again. But the key is putting in the right stuff, the right people. But if you lead like a just like a tyrant, people they're going to be afraid to make decisions.
Yeah.
And then they're always going to be coming to you in order to make the decision, which is just not scalable.
And then you're tied to the business and you can't go and race cars or do whatever you want because your phone's blowing up constantly with problems.
Exactly.
So if you're on the track, you're like, okay, I know it. I want to be 100 person, or I want to have a lot of people in the agency. I want to scale. I've got my vision down. I've got my niche my specialty sort of figured out. You can kind of look in the future and go, okay, I know I'm going to have these departments and these department heads and everything's going to be kind of this big, well-oiled machine. But like, what's the next step to get to not 5 or 10, but like 20 or 30? Because obviously you're not going to go out and hire 90 people tomorrow. So who are the first kind of like handful of hires that you make once you sort of have figured out your specialty or your niche?
Well, it's really about like in order to get there. I mean, the easiest way too is to start generating more leads, building that pipeline. And then as you do that, you have to really figure out who that perfect ideal client is. Like I always tell people saying, if you're going to be paid on performance alone, right? Like what would be the major service and what would be the criteria for that client that you would want?
Paid on performance, meaning the client only pays you if you knock it out of the park for them.
Yep.
Right.
And the better you do, the more you make.
Right.
Right. Now, I'm not saying go do that, but what would that criteria look like? Because a lot of times we're taking on the wrong prospect. Now, I always tell everybody there's never a bad client. There's only a bad prospect or a bad process. So you got to make sure you're taking on the right prospect, and then you can charge enough. Like, because literally every agency I talk to is just not charging enough. Like you got to look at the value you deliver first. And if the value is so far ahead of that, which usually it is, then you got to double your prices or quadruple your prices. And the reason why I'm telling you to do this is because you have to do some key hires.
Yeah.
Some of the key hires would be like VP level people. Now, here's the other thing that I messed up. I looked at the bigger agencies and said, hey, if I can hire the VPs of these big companies and these big agencies, we got it all. Like, we'll figure out their process and that kind of stuff. It was probably one of the biggest mistakes because those VPs are so used to having so many different resources and not rolling up their sleeves and getting their hands dirty. Like, they were just like, oh, they were kind of like me in college. Like, I'd get on a project and I was the one delegating everything, but I would never do anything, right? I would just outsource it. And you don't want that. You want someone to just be able to, do more with less.
Yeah, I think that's...
And so you got to find those right people. Yeah.
I was just going to say that, so what I'm hearing is the VPs at the big companies, if you think that you're getting the director of technology at Google is going to suddenly make your development department fire on all cylinders, but you're a company doing $1 million or $2 million a year, that's the wrong hire. You want to find somebody who just wants to get in the dirt and figure shit out and write code at nighttime because something needs to be done, like really practical people. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, maybe 1-2 levels up from where you're at.
Yeah.
Right. But any more than that, there's just a huge delta in there and they're going to be unhappy. The other thing too, is you want to make sure you define your core values and what you believe in too, and really hire people based on that alone. And then if they can do their job after that.
Yeah.
Right. If they were a rock star from Google, I love Google, right? I would hire Google people all the time, but they're the best in the world. But their culture, like they would have not got along with anybody on the team. No way in hell.
Yeah,
they would make it past. Because look, you're creating this really cool machine or family, and one bad person can screw it all up, and then everybody gets the virus, and then people start jumping ship because they're not just working for you just for the money. They're working for you for what you guys believe in and to support everybody else on the team. And when you realize that, then you have something there.
Yeah, and I think it's very easy for an agency to become soulless because so often you're working for your client's visions, not your own. We've had people on the podcast before who I really admired because they were like, they're really into sustainability and green practice and everything, and so they'll only take on clients that will align with those visions. They won't take on a company that pumps oil out of the ground, right? So finding kind of what you believe in and then finding clients that match that vision. Is that what you'd kind of agree with?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the most important things because, if you have employees that don't believe in what you believe, or you have clients that believe in something different, you're going to have friction. And then the friction leads to people upset and people upset is no good, for the agency, even though you're going to have that sometimes, but it's not needed after you've been at for everybody listening, like if you're 5 people, 10 people, and you're trying to scale, you've been doing this for a while, right? You're not starting out. So exactly what you don't like. You have, what you want to create. It'd be a different conversation if you're just starting out.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's really difficult is that, well, it's always difficult to be profitable on projects, especially when you're doing, kind of what we did. It's common, but it's a bit of a mistake, is like hourly rate projects, fixed cost projects, getting into scope creep, all the same shit that most people have to deal with. But then you think about, okay, when I scale that on a large term, if I'm losing, $20 for every $100 I make, compound that by 100 people, now we're just losing a ton of money. So there's a certain point where you just need to look at all those like key performance indicators and metrics and utilization rate. Is that some stuff you have to have like figured out from the get-go? How do you kind of scale that process?
Well, you're going to figure it out over time. You're not going to figure it all out at once.
Yeah.
So, and you got to kind of take, the little wins. I mean, it's kind of like, if you're a track star, right, and you're trying to break the 4-minute mile, you're not going to break it right off the bat, especially, at my weight, right? You're going to have to take a little time and really kind of work at it and get it. And it's the same thing with the agency. I think a lot of us get impatient. But just think about, like, rather than, losing $20 on every $100, well, how could we reduce that to 10? And then how do we reduce that to 5? And then to 0? And then to make a crap load of money. So think about the little things that you can do. The little things make the big impact. That's not what a lot of people realize. They look for that huge thing, right? That one big idea. Like when people come to me for help, they think it's just going to be the golden bullet.
Right.
Or the silver bullet, right? I'm like, dude, there's going to be a lot of work, man. It's just, I can't just tell you one thing and then boom,
What's an example of one of those little things?
Well, charging the right amount, just literally, like, or knowing how much value actually delivered to your clients to figure out how you need to charge.
Yeah.
Or even just to ask, like, the prospect coming to you, what the freaking budget is. Like, I can't tell you how many times that this happened to me a lot. And this happened to me with a company I never heard of called Berkshire Hathaway. And I pitched them like a $20,000 website, literally writing on a piece of paper. Like, I had no idea who they were. And $20,000 for us back then was huge. But they were expecting like $500,000. So we didn't even win the deal.
Oh.
Right? So little thing would just be asking the budget.
I would have just hung up my skates. I would have just, no. I mean, if I had I can't even. $500,000 and you threw out $20,000 because people are terrified to throw out a big number because they think everyone's going to be sticker shocked, right?
Yeah, when I start working with agencies and we determine the value that they actually give to their clients, and then I find out what they're actually charging. Like, for example, let's say they make someone $1 million on like a $100,000 investment, right? That would be a 10x result. Well, they would charge like $10,000. And so I would literally be like, well, why don't you just charge what they're actually making? Like, I'd charge $1 million. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, well, let's kind of back that out a little bit, right? And you're just trying to shock their system. Right. And then I kind of tell them, I go, well, average out, and this is an easy way to come up with your pricing. Average out the past successes or the revenue that you've generated for your clients in the past 6 months. Average it out and then divide it by 10. So then you're on a 10x model. Now here's the issue: is a lot of agencies don't know the value that they produce.
They don't even track
right?
it. They don't track it.
Yep, they don't track it. They go, well, Jason, we just do websites, so we don't control that other. Well, did you ask them what the website's actually for? Is it for generating leads? How much is a lead worth to them? How much is an opportunity? Yeah. So you have to ask these questions in order to determine this. That's the only way you can start charging the right amount in order to bring in those key people in order to take off, to do your job way better. Yeah. Like, there was tons of things I was not good at. I wasn't good at numbers, right? Even though I had the iPhone in my pocket, still, I was an idiot with those. I would just be like, I want to be at 50% profitability. How do we do that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And just, you got to have the right people, man. God, I can't tell you that enough.
And I think tracking things is important. I've talked to agency owner friends who I go, they're not website designers. They do more like AdWords and PPC and stuff like that. And I'm like, how much does it cost you to does a project run you? Like, what are the people costs? How many hours is it taking them? He's like, I don't know. We don't track our time. I'm like, he's like, I just feel like it's profitable. It feels profitable. I'm like, nah. Like, people, especially agency owners, hate this idea of like KPIs and metrics and utilization rate. But how important is it?
Oh my gosh. So before I tracked, I was losing money on 60% of our projects. 60.
Yeah.
Now, we were just lucky that 40% were extremely profitable. But then when I saw that, I go, holy cow, that's too much. Like, I literally, scope creep was out the roof and we were not undercharging, we were over delivering. But the first battle is knowing it and figuring it out and making sure everybody's tracking their damn time. Even if you're not charging on time, track your damn time, right? And oh gosh, man, I was losing so much money. And then when we started doing this, then we were like, okay, we can't take on projects under this. And the projects that we would like really dive into it and go, why were we losing on this? Well, we had a crappy process for the approval, or we just set up scope creep from the very beginning in the sales conversation. We didn't put any parameters on stuff. And so, but you got to measure it, man. Oh.
When you get into that trap of going, I know that I can't afford to do a $5,000 website project. That will cost me money. But then the lead comes to you and they say our budget's $5,000. It takes an incredible amount of self-control to be able to say we can't take that on. We just can't do it because everybody goes $5K. I could really use $5K. I'm just going to say yes and do it.
Yeah, the opportunity cost. You guys aren't looking at the opportunity cost, right? So that same 5,000 that you would make maybe 1,000 on, well, if you worked for Berkshire Hathaway, you would be making 498,000, right?
Yeah,
that's a pretty big freaking opportunity cost, and so you really want to look at that, or look at the time you're going to spend on that. And then we all know too, taking on the little guys, they're going to demand even more attention than the big guys.
Yeah.
So you're not going to make money on it. You're going to lose money, lose time. Time is way more important than money. Like even if you took that time you're going to spend on that particular client and put it into your own damn website because your website sucks, that the opportunity alone from that could propel you. Absolutely.
People need to think a lot bigger than they're probably already thinking, and that is something that you help with. So I want to plug Jason here because if I was still running an agency, I would buy your shit. Like it's good, and I have a lot of friends who run agencies who you offer consulting and coaching to. Maybe just tell the listeners how they can if they're looking to make that next step and scale, how they can kind of get in on all this cool stuff that you're offering.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot, and I basically wanted to create a resource that I wish I had when I was running my agency, because I remember how all the struggles that we had. And so we've put together a couple different things. We have an agency playbook, what basically walks you through the 8 systems in order to really scale and grow your agency and set that foundation for you going forward. So if you go to my website, jasonswank.com, you'll see everything there. And the one thing I want to tell you guys about is, and I just bought this domain name, so it's pretty cool. So if you go to swank.it, then you can receive some pretty cool strategies that I send out every week on the podcast and that kind of stuff. I think that's probably the first area you guys go to. And if you like kind of my style there, then I can help you out with the agency playbook or the agency university that we're creating to really help you and do that ongoing support with you guys going forward. But, I'm just here to help you guys out and get you through the struggles that I wish I could have gotten through a lot quicker. So I didn't have to spend 12 years or 10 years suffering and 2 years happy.
Yeah, it makes a world of difference. Swenk it, that is with an E, SWENK. If you ever don't end up doing this, you can always use that domain for a lot of other things. Swenk it is going to serve you well for a long time.
I know. I also got swank.me too.
Oh, awesome. People can leave their puns, their jokes. They can tell all of it to you. Thanks so much for being here.
I need help figuring it out.
Thank you so much for your time sharing this. It's you're always an invaluable, just plethora of knowledge about agencies and how to run it well. So people should definitely check it out, and there will be links in the show notes. Thank you again, Jason.
Thanks, man. Make sure you guys take action.
Absolutely. All right.